everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have a really interesting character. He's a musician, a comedian, a podcast host, and general fixture of our Northern Colorado community here. Please welcome to the show, Doug Ware. Doug, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you for having me, man. I feel honored.
Oh, happy to have you. So one of the more interesting things I've heard about you doing recently was opening for Drake Bell, of all people. How did you put that together?
So I think a lot of people will probably get pissed off at this answer, but I didn't do anything. I didn't try to get the show or anything. It was brought to me by the Aggie booking team. And I'm still trying to figure out if it was like they seriously thought, hey, this guy would be a great beat, or if they were just like, we can't find anybody else willing. I bet Doug will. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I try not to turn down too many gigs if I get asked to do them.
Now, how did the show itself go?
You want me to be honest?
Yeah.
So I usually am my worst critic, but I actually feel like I did really well that night, and I got a whole new following from it, about 75 new followers, which was pretty cool. But I played longer than Drake Bell, and he showed up 2.5 hours late to his meet and greet, stoned out of his mind. Which I'm fine with people doing what they want, but handle yourself, you know. And he
especially
was just,
that demographic too.
Yeah, young girls, a lot of young girls. And he was just kind of I don't know if I can say this, but he was kind of a dick.
Oh, you can say that. It definitely makes sense.
But it was still fun. I had a blast.
If Drake Bell's actually going to come across this podcast or not.
If he does, he can't fight it. It's not slander or libel if it's true. So.
Well, I noticed you do like a lot of interesting stuff like this. Do you have a consistent strategy for how you go out and try and get booked or get things put together like this?
I think it depends on what it is that I'm trying to do at that time, or what I'm trying to accomplish. Back with my old band, I was definitely more proactive with trying to sell us and get gigs. And at this point, I just kind of put it out there that I'm available. And if somebody wants me to be on a show, I'll do it. When it comes to music, I should say, with comedy, it's definitely a little bit more proactive when I'm involved.
Trying really hard.
It is, and it's you really have to put yourself out there. And then the podcast aspect, I just I ask. I try not to be afraid to ask a venue or people to be involved. So.
Well, that's definitely something from like back in my music days too. It's the persistence, and I've even had agents and managers tell me that it's like, "Hey, you are the one that kept emailing us, kept on it, kept trying, never like lost your cool or anything, and eventually it'll pay off, even if they're ignoring you at first."
Exactly. And I think I do more with that, with the music factor, when I finally have something recorded and tangible to give them other than just live shows.
Awesome. So you mentioned the podcast. Doug is the host and creator of the Not Governed by Reason podcast. I've been a guest on that before. It's been around for a long time now. Could you tell us a little bit about the progression of the podcast from when you first started it up until now?
Well, it's gone downhill completely. No, no, we're in our 4th year, and I mean, we started with just an idea. We were watching a really terrible political climate going on and a lot of social divide going on. And so we decided we wanted to create a show that talked current events and tried to get people to learn more about the world around them through kind of an unbiased eye and with a terrible sense of humor behind it. And it's grown now to be more of we don't really talk politics much anymore, but it's been more of an introduction to certain guests. We want it to be a way for fans to learn about our guests in a non-cookie cutter way. And so we do kind of a weird interview, and then we cover current events with them. And I feel like fans can learn a lot about somebody outside of the stereotypical cookie cutter questions that are asked in an interview.
Oh,
And,
definitely. That's
uh,
how I felt when I was on there.
and it's fun. We try to encourage our guests to be real and to forget the cameras there, go uncensored, and now it's grown quite a bit. We minus this quarantine stuff kind of messing with us. We average in between 1 and 3,000 views per show,
Oh, wow.
which is awesome because before it was like we'd get lucky if we got 20 live views. And yeah, I mean, we've quit focusing on production quality as much and just try to go real with it.
And that's a lot of the philosophy behind this. I got some lights and
Yeah,
all that, but other than that, it's just a guy on his couch, talking to his friends. So
I think that there's a certain amount of production quality that's important to keep people's attention, but I also think there's a point where it kills what's going on with it. And in the future, I'd like to see it get tuned in a little bit more on our end, but also grow with it. We want to eventually get national guests. We've had a few on, but we'd like to get more names and stuff. And as long as we don't scare them away.
well, with the celebrity Deadpool feature of your show, you might have checked a few of those people.
I've only, in the history of us doing this, we're several maybe 100 episodes in now. I've only had one person refuse to participate. So
nice. Well, a lot of people volunteer. I know when I was on with Greg Cherry, both of us, volunteer because it just sounded like a fun thing to do.
it is fun.
Where do you see like the podcast going, say over the next like year, 2 years?
Well, that's a good question. I didn't think it would actually last this long, honestly. But I'm excited that it has. And I'd like to see it go to where we're doing more live shows, like actually live at a venue show, more fundraisers and community work. And I'd like to eventually maybe see it tour a little bit.
Oh, a podcast tour. That's something
It'd be
new.
cool. I think it'd be fun.
Well, something really connected to you guys is the Degenerate Dance Party. For those who don't know, it's a group on Facebook for distasteful humor, which I'm a part of.
Very
And
distasteful.
and I've accidentally shared some of my distasteful humor to my main page when thinking of sharing it to the group, and that was not good for business.
No.
Yeah, but so I remember when you first started that, I was one of the first people in, and it just sort of blew up on you overnight. Like, how did that come about, and how did you expect it to take off so quickly on you?
That's a good question. We from before we started the group, we wanted to eventually create a network of groups that could provide different atmospheres under Not Governed by Reason and the Degenerate title. And we started with the Degenerate Dance Party. We felt it was the right time for it. And the whole point of it was for people to look past social and like political divide and get together to laugh at terrible things. Humor is a medicine. It's a way to understand terrible things and to cope with terrible things. And so we wanted to create this group that wasn't driven by drama or politics or bullshit like that normally causes divide in people in our society now. And I think it was timing. The timing was right to get it
Oh, it
going.
was.
And that's the goal with all these groups. We've got probably 20 groups that we're trying to get under this network, and it's all about timing with them. And I mean, it was the perfect time. And I mean, yeah, we've had a few hiccups from people, but it gets weeded out really quick.
Oh, yeah.
I did not expect, I mean, to an extent, I think I expected some growth, but I didn't expect it to go as quick, nor did I expect the devotion that we have from people in there. And that makes me so happy how many people just love the group and how much joy it brings people.
Well, that's the cool thing. You get all the stats from Facebook, like really detailed.
We do. We actually created it to kind of be an advertisement for the podcast. And really, we've kind of given up on that factor a little bit. You know, we want it to be definitely a community. And we just launched our second group in the community, technically third if you count the podcast news group. But we launched a conspiracy group. And it's really awesome the way it went and how quick that's even blown up. And it's called the Degenerate Intelligence Agency. And we were wanting to start it for a long time. And there was no good time for it until the coronavirus stuff came. And people, that really, it messed with people's morale.
Oh,
I think the
definitely.
coronavirus has really broken people down, and it was a way to get people in to talk about stuff that is outrageous. Maybe you believe it, maybe you don't. It's never put out there that you do.
Well,
But to
people love the fake conspiracies too because they're
yeah,
just fun.
it's fun. But it allows people to talk without. We encourage healthy conversation. You know, if you don't like something, rather than get pissed off at it, learn from it, understand it. We encourage that debate. And overnight, it was like I think 250 members overnight.
Wow.
And there's been no war. You know, there's people from all backgrounds of religious belief and political belief, all just getting there to talk some craziness. And it's
So,
awesome.
so over this network, is it like mostly localized to our area, Northern Colorado, or has it bled over to the rest of the state or national as far as membership and people engaging with the group?
So I think like with Degenerate Dance Party at first, it was very much the local area here, and then it trickled out. And then I know I used to live in Texas for a few years, and uh, made some good friends there, and they got added, and then that grew, and now we have members all over the world in the Degenerate Dance Party, which is pretty cool. Um, it's grown, yeah, but definitely more of a it's unspoken Colorado community, I would say.
Oh, definitely. Seated right here in Fort Collins.
Yeah, and we love that factor, and we try to encourage. We do some meetups to get people out at, and yeah, it's fun, man. I love it. Good community.
So speaking of, engagement and community and whatnot, between like your personal page and the groups and whatnot you started, you get a lot of like local, organic, real engagement from people. Is there a secret to that, or what do you do to like foster that sort of reaction from people? Because a lot of people don't really get the same kind of likes, comments, or general engagement as you do.
Other than spending way too much time on social media, I think a big reason why I get how do I put this? Like, I've been in the community for 20 years, and I really try to be a good people person. I don't really care what you how do I put it? Like a lot of people will judge somebody real quick by their beliefs, and I don't really care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, trans, straight, anything like that. I don't care. You know, my biggest philosophy is don't ever judge until you've had a good, solid interaction with people. And really just don't be a dick. You know, that's a big thing. And because of that interaction outside, it's grown into social media. Now, I do have rules on social media that I don't post personal life stuff very often. I don't post religious things. I don't post political things unless there's humor built around them.
Which there usually is.
There usually is, yeah. I really try to keep it clean, not clean because it's
Accessible.
offensive, accessible to everybody. That's the perfect term. And I think that and interacting back with people, I'm a firm believer that if somebody's giving you their attention, you give them your attention. You know, don't give them your all, and I feel like because of that, I've grown a pretty good community.
Awesome. Well, a lot of what you do is predicated on your strong social circle, both on and offline. Do you agree with that statement, or would you like to elaborate on that basic idea?
I absolutely do agree with that. I try to keep my real life and like online persona pretty identical. So there's not questions or doubts of who I am or what people can expect from me. But like I said, I always try to give the respect and courtesy of uninterrupted attention to people. And that works online and off.
Awesome. And what advice would you give someone who maybe just arrived in a new city, or maybe doesn't have a lot of friends to start with? What advice would you give them to help build a stronger social network, both on and offline?
I would say don't be afraid to interact with people, and don't be so eager to make it those interactions instantly about yourself. You know, people will learn from you naturally as it grows. So if you just shove yourself down people's throats, they're not going to enjoy that, and that'll push you out of a community. Um, I don't know. I grew up with a family that moved every 3 years in my life. I was always the new kid. And because of that, sink or swim. When you go to a place, you have to either dive right in and try to get to know people and adjust to that, or be absolutely alone. And I'm too social to be
Yeah.
alone. And so I always say, like I said, don't judge people right away until you have a right to judge them. Um, the community factor, when you meet somebody, say their name to them. That's a
Oh, that's
huge
a big
thing.
one.
Empower the person you're talking to, and remember bits and pieces about it. And it goes a long way. You could quickly build a community of people, and be yourself. Don't be a fake ass.
Oh, definitely. That is some solid advice right there. One thing I really like about you is that we were just talking about this, is you often consistently engage with people's posts and things they have going on in their lives. And there's a lot of people that is subscribed to the idea that engaging with people on social media or giving out likes somehow lowers their value or makes them less prestigious. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on this mind frame that some people have?
I completely disagree with that mindset. If you're trying to build a brand, people want to know it's genuine, and that they're supporting someone that's not a machine.
Hmm.
I think it lowers your value to not interact with people, especially those that are helping you succeed and build something. Um, I always have so much respect for people who are pretty well known, who take that time to interact with their people. And that's important. I respect it when my heroes interact with me, or the people I look up to interact with me. So I think you're screwing yourself by not interacting back with people. Um, and it makes you more human. I think people want to feel like they're connected to something that's not a machine.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
and honestly, a few minutes of time can create a lifetime of connection and memorable experiences for people. And so just, even having like, I'm a musician, I look up to a lot of musicians, and having them tweet with me or whatever goes a long way. And I want to be able to do that as well. If it gets to the point where you're too big to connect to people, and have someone else handling your interactions, it loses its genuine air.
Oh, absolutely. And even something simple, like say, a big artist or whatnot, even something simple like a like or a response to a comment could go really far,
Oh
as
yeah.
far as sort of cementing that connection with, your listener or your customer or client, or,
I
whatever
mean,
it is you have going on.
absolutely, absolutely. And I've had the honor of getting to know some of the people I've looked up to throughout my life, and now have the ability to direct message them or whatever. And it always makes me feel really good to have that interaction. So I try to give others that interaction.
Oh, absolutely. And what is something that one could do today for free that would help them start building some kind of community with the people around them?
How do I put this one? Don't be afraid to put your energy into something that feels right. Just that gut feeling alone can help you build a community. Starting conversations with people you might not normally conversate with, learning people's names, and like I said, not judging people. Those things can build a community really fast and will encourage people to invest in you and whatever you're building. Always be genuine, because people can see through the bullshit. If you're a good person and have nothing to hide, then people will be drawn to you, believe it or not. And I think
Absolutely.
that helps build community tremendous. People can smell bullshit a mile away. And so go in without ulterior motives, and treat people. Gosh, this is a weird one. The golden rule, treat people the way you want to be treated, goes a long way.
Oh, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback, like say maybe I don't know if you don't have to put anyone on blast, but can you think of like an example of maybe someone in the community that was struggling with doing these sorts of things, and were some of the mistakes they were making, just to kind of maybe help someone else who might be struggling in this area?
I without saying anybody in particular, because I see it in several people. For one, community building isn't for everyone, honestly. But being, nothing is a competition. If you treat things like it's a competition, or it's all about what you're going to get out of it, you're usually going to get screwed in that case. But working together with people, being co-mutual towards things, giving to your community, goes a long way. And so someone struggling to build the community, I would honestly, it's harsh, but look into yourself. There's something you're doing wrong if people do not want to interact with you.
Oh, absolutely.
So that it could be just as simple as not being a dick. I don't think people pay attention to the tone of their voice enough.
Which
And I
is even
think
harder with social media and
very much
texting
so.
and
Very much so. So there's key words that you can use and stuff like if it's conflicting, if you have conflict with someone, rather than get emotional and freak out about it, honestly look them in the eyes and say, help me understand this. And those words can go a long way in building a relationship and truly understanding what the conflict is, and people's respect for you, that you're willing to be assertive and build that or fix the conflict. People are so quick to just be like, screw you, these days, and to stand their ground and get defensive for no reason. And that to me is one of the biggest things in our society it's killing our community.
oh,
Is
definitely.
if you're a Trump supporter and I'm a Democrat, that's an instant screw you. And I think that's dangerous, very dangerous, and it breaks us. It really causes a civil divide that is beyond uh, class or things like that.
Oh yeah, well, things like that, they'll often like each party is gonna just form their own idea of the person,
Mhm. And
without
it'll
even
be,
really knowing about them, and those are gonna
I'm right, they're
clash.
wrong. Yeah.
And it's
So
same on both ways. And
I agree. And so I always say with that, like stuff like that, be willing to hear people out. We've had on our show, we try to bring in guests from all different backgrounds, and we do that so we can have a safe debate and learn about each other, and by the end be friends. you know
right.
I, don't know. I
Where do
like
you
friendship.
Oh, definitely. Oh, dude, how long have we known each other now?
A
Known each
long
other
time.
now.
A long
Wow.
time.
Well,
I
oh, sorry.
I want to say I met you back before OPC was a thing, back before Other People's Children was a thing. And so it's been a while. Fuzzy years. Fuzzy
Oh
years.
yeah. Same here. Well, kind of connecting that to some of the earlier questions we had going on here, like one thing I noticed when starting this podcast, like I reached out to a lot of my friends, like you, who are
Hmm.
doing interesting things, but I also have some just like kind of acquaintances that I maybe met once or maybe did a little business with that I reached out to, and I'm finding myself like reading and rereading my request to them. It's just like, how is this coming off?
Yeah.
Like how is this going to connect with them? How does this entice them? How does it make it valuable to them and
Hmm.
make it sound like something they want to be a part of? And I just don't think a lot of people really will take that time. They'll just send something off and it gets read by the person. They're like, ugh.
Yes. Yeah,
And
I agree. Wording is a big thing with soliciting people, and don't be afraid to have people say no.
oh, absolutely. And especially with this specific example, there's people I've reached out to that might not want to be public.
Right,
It
right,
might not even have anything or they might just not like me. It could be any of these things, but it doesn't necessarily have to do with me. And it's just
right.
about being cool with them and sort of moving on. But
I think people are also scared to show themselves in so many ways.
oh, definitely. And it's tricky. You got to like really think about how you approach people and what people are getting out of their interaction with you.
Right.
It's really important.
Uh, I've learned this might go on one of the other questions you have, but
Oh, certainly.
the interaction with people, as long as it doesn't seem deliberately, how do I put it, like mean or abusive towards somebody, you could get away with some shit.
Oh,
So
definitely. People can be forgiving too. I don't want to make it
yes,
seem like everybody's taking everything to heart.
no, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, you just gotta sort of do your best to respect them and connect with them in the right way or in a way they'd be responsive to.
Right.
Even if you don't necessarily get what you're looking for out of it, whether it be in my
Yes.
case like an interview or something like that or a piece of business. And even just making that connection, who knows what could happen as a result of that, down the
Yeah.
road or in the future, even if you didn't get what you wanted right then and there.
Oh yeah. And I say always look before you leap, man. Because you have a question on there about the events and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
that really ties into that. Look before you leap, man.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that too, because you are known for doing a lot of events with the podcast and whatnot. A lot of them went really well, and others, as you've told me, have went off the rails. Tell us about a time things didn't work out so well.
None of them have ever gone as planned.
Well, that's life in
Uh,
general.
I will say that, especially when you're dealing with degenerate minds. Um, I've got a couple actually. The the whiskey one for our 2-year anniversary.
Oh
I
yeah, I've heard
wouldn't
this story.
say it was bad because everybody had a blast. We packed the house. We weren't asked to not come back. We were invited back. But I had just started drinking again after being sober for 10 years, and I hadn't had hard alcohol. And we had the way we did the lineup is we'd have a comedian go up and do 10 minutes, come and sit at the table, discuss for 10 minutes, have another comedian come up, and then bring them to the table and slowly rotate people out. And so it was 6 hours of
Wow.
just drunken shit show. And somebody brought up a bottle of very expensive whiskey and just started pouring it into people's mouths. And I took a big ass swill. I hadn't drank whiskey in forever. And I made the mistake of saying, "Oh, this is the first time I've drinking hard alcohol in 10 years." And they cut me off.
Oh
They
really?
cut me off on stage. It was hilarious.
I'm surprised the whiskey was even letting people do that.
I mean, for a Tuesday night, I don't think they've ever seen that many people in there, honestly. I'm being serious. I don't mean to stroke my own ego, but it was packed. They had to turn people away. So we made
wasn't
them some money that night.
wasn't there also an incident at the Colorado room?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say the name of that. Communication is key with things, and I will always put something up front for people. I don't care if they take it wrong. If it's honesty, I'd rather be that way. And we were doing a fundraiser for suicide awareness and prevention. And one of the things that we had planned out was kind of a gauntlet of human abuse. And we communicated this up front that we would be having hot food challenges, that we would be chugging poutine gravy, and that we would also be doing like body waxing and stuff on stage for money. And is I communicated it several times. We set this up months in advance, and they, when it happened, were not okay with it, and it was almost like it got lost in translation that, oh, you guys are not joking. You're really going to chug a quart of poutine gravy after eating a hot toe of Satan sucker and body waxing on stage. And I also don't think that they expected people who to show up that were just normal guests of the Colorado room that
Okay.
saw it happen. And I think they came out and saw me shirtless getting my body waxed for money that just kind of triggered them. And so they shut us off early, didn't necessarily commit to their end of the deals for it. And it kind of sucked. And it was implied that we would never be allowed back there to do a show. We were allowed back for business, but to do a show. And since then we've cleared it up. We've talked about it, and I understand why it could be disturbing for maybe that's not the venue to be doing what we did. But it's also, we communicate.
Oh yeah, it is.
But we did a good cause. We raised some money for a good cause. So.
Oh yes, and you and the podcast, you did a whole drive for that a while back. I remember. How did that go? Was your efforts successful?
Yeah, originally it was going to be a split fundraiser. We were going to take a percentage of it because our video switcher on the podcast died, which was a
really?
piece of equipment for the show. And unfortunately, the company that makes our video switcher doesn't exist anymore. The closest thing to it's $2,500. And so not really something I could pull out of my pocket, that none of us could pull out of our pocket. And originally it was going to be a split fundraiser. We were going to do 25% to us, 75% to the Alliance for Suicide Prevention. Now, shortly before the fundraiser, we lost a member of our comedy community to suicide, and it really hit us hard. And
it reverberated, definitely.
Suicide's something I feel strongly about. I've been heavily affected in my life by, and it's always something I've wanted to try to fight. But that was shit. It was like that hit hard. And so we ended up raising the money for them. We didn't end up taking any of the money in the end, which we raised about $600. So that was cool.
Oh, that's pretty awesome for it's like a local community effort.
Yeah. And we got to get drunk and have fun.
Oh yeah, that's always. Well, since we don't want to end on a more negative note or like that, tell me where things are going from here, man. What's next for Doug and what's next for NGBR?
That's a good question. We're working on some of our groups and stuff. I am trying. We're kind of. It's weird right now with the social distancing stuff.
Very difficult
because we don't want to present an image that we're not following those rules or cause backlash that way by having guests on. So right now I'm working on soliciting guests for the show. I'm trying to be better about that, not just saying, hey, who wants to come on, but actually seeking out guests. So that's one of the things we've got going on. I don't know if I can say it, but I'm going to. The East Coast is moving. They're taking over the Artery. And so one of the things we'll be doing is probably a monthly show there for the podcast.
Oh, very cool.
That'll be fun, music and comedy. So that's the future of NGBR right there. We're going to work on some more shows, better guests, production stuff. As for myself, I'm just going with it, man. Playing some music here. After quarantine and shit, I'll be hitting the comedy scene again.
Oh, absolutely. And this quarantine really just smacked down the comedy community.
Smacked everything down, man. I have a lot of good friends that are professional musicians, that's their living, and they can't make up for it right now,
Oh, and especially this time of year too. This is the time to be
tour
going
and
out
festival
to see
season.
Stuff.
Yeah. So support your local musicians and comedians, folks. Buy a shirt, stream on Spotify for a fraction of a cent,
Or even just share a live stream.
Exactly. Goes a long way.
Awesome. Well, Doug, at this point, feel free to put out there, any groups or anything you'd like to put out there as far as how to get a hold of you or how to get involved in what you're doing, or tell
Um,
them how to tell folks how to find the podcast.
so our podcast is called Not Governed by Reason. We do it live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Not Governed by Reason. Check it out. It's fun. It goes up on all the platforms after that: YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you can find Dave Matthews is what we joke about. And then if you want to join some messed up groups, you can look up Degenerate Dance Party or Degenerate Intelligence Agency right now. And then today we're launching a new group that is based around degenerate creative minds, like artists, musicians, comedians, to share their work. And I'm coming up with the name right now. I still haven't come up with it, but we're thinking about Degenerate Art.
Ooh,
Degenerate Art.
that's interesting. Well, for the first one, the dance party, don't join if you like reporting stuff to Facebook.
Yeah, we will kick your ass out so quick. But yeah, that's about it. Check me around town and
you can't go outside in Fort Collins without meeting this guy. So
that's probably true.
Well, at least during non-coronavirus times.
This is true. But yeah, add me on social media, Doug Ware. If you do Twitter, I think it's Doug Ware Media, maybe, or no, Doug Eat Doug is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Instagram, Doug Eat Doug. Twitter, Doug Eat Doug.
All right. Well, Doug, thank you so much for taking the time today. I think this conversation was really illuminating and definitely can help some people.
I had a blast. Thank you.
Oh,
I'm excited to see what you do with it.
Oh, thank you, sir.